Today we are going to
तो
start with
सर आपसे एक चीज पूछनी थी। वो सर आपने सैटरडे वाली क्लास में एसिड एंड वो उसका चैप्टर के 5 पेपर कराए थे, तो आप रिकॉर्डिंग शेयर कर सकते हैं उसकी।
हमने सैटरडे वाली क्लास नहीं ली थी।
अच्छा।
okay. So today we are going to start up with basically chemical equations and moles. Okay. So everyone knows a chemical equation basically represents a chemical change, and in a chemical equation we talk about reactants. These are the substances which react and then they form new products. Okay. Now what is a chemical change? So chemical change is a change which alters the composition of a substance, in which old bonds are broken and new bonds are formed. Now, what does that has to mean? See, thing is, if you talk about, for example, calcium carbonate, okay, and we heat this substance up, this is a symbol for heating. So what happens is it converts into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. So initially, what you see here is that's calcium being connected to carbon and carbon being connected to three of the oxygen atoms. Now, when you heat this up, what happens is that bonds between these three substances, they break and certain new substances are formed. So if here you see calcium is not bonded to carbon, calcium is bonded to oxygen. So there is a new bond that is now between calcium and oxygen. So this change represents a chemical change. Now, here originally we had carbon with three oxygen. Now we have carbon with two oxygen. So still there is a new bond that is. So chemical change is happening, and we have just used a chemical equation to represent a chemical change. Now, in a chemical equation, what happens is we have certain numbers, we have certain alphabets, we have certain numbers written at the top, numbers written at the bottom, things like those. So how do we go about it? So first thing is numbers, like subscript numbers. Now, what is a subscript number? Subscript number is a number written at the lower end or the shorter end, like this. That's the subscript. So this represent number of atoms. If there isn't any number written, that means it's by default one. That means here it's one, here it's one, here it's one. It is also one here and one here. So there are always subscripts which represents number of atoms. Now, how can we apply this concept here? So once you see CaCO3, so how many atoms in total? So let's count 3 plus 1, that's 5 atoms. ठीक है, is this understood? ये समझ में आती है बात सबको? Good, nice. Then what happens next is बुशरा, हम वो फिर बाद में कर लेंगे डिस्कस, ठीक है? क्योंकि अभी हसन भी नहीं है, आई थिंक। सो आई स्टार्टेड अप विद अ न्यू टॉपिक, तो वो हम बाद में डिस्कस कर लेंगे। मुझे आप भेज देना, आई विल सेंड द आंसर्स टू यू, वो हम देख लेंगे, ठीक है? Now, there are certain numbers which are written in the superscript. So let's say we have something like this. And we obtain something like this. So now these numbers, they are written as the superscripts. They represent essentially charges always. Now, there are certain numbers which are written as coefficients. Now, what does that have to do? So for example, if we have something like this, so you see numbers as coefficients as well. Like this is a coefficient, this is a coefficient. So these numbers, which are as coefficients, they represent basically moles. Now what mole actually is, ये तो हम बाद में पढ़ने वाले हैं, but these are moles. And these are very important in chemistry. And these are very important in order to get the equation balanced. Okay, used for balancing the equation. So if we want to go into the details of this, how can we go about it? So let's learn how to balance this equation. So for example, if we have silicon reacting with chlorine and it forms silicon tetrachloride, that is SiCl4. So first, always create a column like this where you can write reactants and products. So in your reactants, there is Si and Cl2. So I'm writing Si and Cl. And products, obviously, if you have reactants may Si and Cl, so products will also have Si and Cl. Now let's count how many silicon do we have. So there is no number written here or here, so it means it is 1. There is no number written here, but it is 1. And here it's 2. So 2 into 1 is basically 2. Do you guys get this?
सर ये एक और बार समझा दे.
Okay. Silicon may basically you see there is no number written here, right? So it is 1 and here there is no number written here. So this is basically 1. But fluorine may you see 2 here and 1 here. So this becomes 2. Do you get it?
जी सर.
Similarly, if you see here, there is only 1 silicon, but here you see 4 chlorine, right? So once you realize that chlorine is not balanced. Now, what do we mean by balanced or not balanced? See, if numbers on the reactants and product side are same, so this is basically balanced. If they aren't same like this, so it's not balanced. So now what you can do, you can change numbers as coefficients. That means you can place, instead of 1 here, you can write 2 here. So this now becomes balanced. Do you get it? Let's try this equation. Would you be able to balance this all by yourself? We'll start up with simple equations and then we'll move on to different equations and difficult equations. That's nice. So let's figure out the reactants and products. So reactant may we have hydrogen and oxygen, so is in products. So here it's 2 written, so it's no number here, so this would be That's nice. Good job. This would be 2. Here it's 2 written. There is no number here. That means it's 1. So it's basically 2 here. Here it's 2. But oxygen here is 1. So we have to come up with a strategy with balancing out this. So let's write 2 here. But once you write 2 here, hydrogen becomes 4, oxygen becomes 2. So here, now oxygen is balanced, but not hydrogen. So we have to add 2 here. So the final answer should be 2H2 plus O2 produces 2H2O, right? Let's try this one. Done? That's nice. So this should be somewhat like this. We see 1 potassium, 1 chlorine, 3 oxygen, 1 potassium, 1 chlorine, but 2 oxygen. So what we can do here, we can write, basically you can just do crisscross. तो आप यहाँ पे 2 लिख दो, यहाँ पे 3 लिख दो. So this would now make oxygen 6, right? But also potassium and chlorine, they change. So this would be 2 case here, right? Do you get it? Since you now understand it, तो हमें इसको और ज़्यादा steps में लेके जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. Directly भी आप ऐसा कर सकते.
सर ऑक्सीजन 6 इस वजह से हुआ क्योंकि उसके पास ऑलरेडी 1 था।
Yeah.
ठीक।
So, okay. Now let's make it a bit different. How would you balance this? Maybe सारी equations को balance ना करना पड़े आपको. हो सकता है कुछ balanced हो already. That is nice. Good job. So this would be 2 here, right? And 2 here. So this will make this equation balanced. This is already balanced, right? So we have to put 2 here, 4 here, and 3 here, right? Is that correct? बेटा ये समझ में आता है? आपने ये कर लिया सबने? Okay, that's nice. Let's now understand the basic idea of why are we balancing these equations. See, we have to study now moles. We can relate it to that. So the equation tells us that aluminum is reacting with oxygen. So these basically are reactants in any of the equations, and these are the products. So if we see, how much aluminum is required to make aluminum oxide, so we see that's 4 moles of aluminum, which is required to make 2 moles of aluminum oxide. Okay. Similarly, if we talk about how many moles of oxygen are required, so that's 3 moles of oxygen is needed to make 2 moles of aluminum oxide. So now based on this mathematical analysis, can we, identify which of these substances, aluminum or oxygen, is going to be consumed faster, is going to be consumed more? How do you decide about that? So basically, 4 moles of aluminum are needed and 3 moles of oxygen are needed, right? So 4 is basically a bigger number as compared to 3. That means we need more aluminum and less oxygen to make aluminum oxide, right? Is that correct? So it's like you're making a juice, for example, you have this recipe of juice, and in making up that juice, what you need is the juice powder and sugar. Okay. So the ratio is, for every 1 tablespoon of sugar, you have to add 4 tablespoons of juice powder. So which one is going to be consumed up first if you keep on adding sugar? So answer is always juice powder, right? Because this is consumed more. You guys get this? Is this understood? Good. So these mole ratios are very important because once you don't understand how an equation is balanced, then you won't be able to study moles at all. Let's try a difficult equation. I'll try to balance this up for you, but I want you to try and identify if there is any challenge, with this. It is a very difficult equation, but let's see how it goes. I'll wait for a couple of minutes before I explain it. So give it a try anyways. So still trying? So I'll wait for a couple of minutes. So I have an answer from Bushra. Okay, I think other candidates are still doing. So, well, Bushra, in your answer, I think you have balanced out nitrogen, hydrogen, but oxygen is not balanced, right? So, chale, let's try it together. So we have, nitrogen here and here. We have hydrogen here and we have hydrogen here. But problem with the oxygen is that on my product side, okay, on my product side, I have oxygen in two of the substances, right? And reactant side में we have only one oxygen, ठीक है? एक ही जगह पे oxygen. तो अब क्या करना है? तो सीन है कि अब करना यह है कि सबसे पहले तो ऑक्सीजन को बिल्कुल इग्नोर कर दें. यू डोंट नीड टू वरी अबाउट ऑक्सीजन एट ऑल. सिर्फ ये देखेंगे नाइट्रोजन और हाइड्रोजन का क्या हिसाब किताब. तो Vc2 हाइड्रोजन हियर, Vc3 हाइड्रोजन हियर. तो इसको क्रॉस वो कर लेते हैं, क्रिस क्रॉस कर लेते हैं. इफ वी राइट 2 हियर, so this becomes 3. So hydrogen is balanced, right? So this becomes 6 hydrogen and this becomes 6 hydrogen. Okay. Now, if we see nitrogen here, so that's 2. So we can write 2 here. So basically 2 nitrogen here and 2 nitrogen here. That's fine. Now what's left? Now let's see oxygen. Let's count oxygen here. There are 2 oxygen here and there are 3 oxygen here, right? So 2 plus 3 total कितना हो गए? 5. ये समझ में आती है बात? Okay. Then now this is 5 oxygen and here that's 2 oxygen. So we have to convert this 2 into 5. The thing is, if we change any number here, that changes nitrogen as well and hydrogen as well because oxygen के change के साथ nitrogen and hydrogen दोनों change हो जाएंगे. So that's not a better idea to change it. What if I plan to make this oxygen from 2 to 5? How do I do about it? So it's right O2 and I don't know what number is this. So let's assume it to be X. So basically this X, right, multiplied by 2 should give me an answer of 5. We get it? So इसको थोड़ा mathematical कर लेते हैं, मजा आएगा आपको. Now, how is this 2x coming from? So that's 2 times x. And where is this 5 coming from? That's the 5 which I'm interested in. So this x would be now 2.5. Is that correct? So we can just write 2.5 here. And this would stand out balanced. Okay? Do you get it? So now you realize कि यहाँ पे we have 2.5 times का कुछ सीन है तो हम इसे कैसे फिर लिखेंगे तो one way of to write this would be ठीक है but we don't prefer to write answers in decimals. So basically 2.5 एक decimal number है इसको अगर हम for example whole number में convert करें तो we can convert it into by multiplying the entire equation with 2. So in that case this 2.5 becomes 5. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि ये गलत है but thing is this looks more better, right? So कुछ समझ में आया? That's how you balance this one. 4 5 4 and 6.
सर थोड़ा बहुत समझ है।
तो बेटा क्या समझ में नहीं आया प्लीज आप पूछें जो भी समझ में नहीं आया आपको.
सही है, आप वो इक्वेशन मतलब 2.5 पे वो कैसा आपने बैलेंस की?
मैंने आपके सामने पूरी वर्किंग की है. मतलब हमें यहाँ पे कोई नंबर लगाना होता है हमने कहा कि वो नंबर को हम सोच लेते हैं एक्स. तो फिर हमने इस 2 को मल्टीप्लाई भी करना होता है उससे तो मैंने लिखा 2x. अब इसको किसके बराबर करना है प्रोडक्ट के बराबर करना है विच इज 5. तो 2x को 5 के बराबर किया x की वर्किंग कर ली तो 2.5 आ गया. सिंपल.
ठीक है सर।
सबको समझ में आता है. गुड. चलो ये ट्राई करो. C2H6O2 CO2 and H2O. Let's try this. Oxygen in the product is 3. Yes, it's 3. So let's see. 4O2, 2, and 3. Hmm. So first step is to balance carbon. Let's try to balance carbon. Then proceed with hydrogen. We have 6. Now let's count oxygen. So how many oxygen? 4 plus 3, that's 7. So if I want to make this 7, so let's assume this to be 2x is equals to 7. That means x is equals to 7 upon 2, that's 3.5, right? So we can write 3.5 here. So one way to balance this up would have been C2H6, 3.5 O2, 2 CO2, and 3H2, right? On the other side, we can do just, multiplication, and we can go about everything multiplying by 2, right? सबको 2 से multiply करेंगे. So in that case, this would be 2C2H6, 7O2, 4CO2, and 6H2. Do you guys get this? Is this understood? Zabardast. So let's keep it up till here. Okay. See you guys in the next class. Take care. Allah Hafiz.